After Contract Hours podcast, the show where we clock out at work to check in on the well-being of the world. I'm your host, Courtney Heidorn, and I am beyond excited to dive into today's episode, which is a bit different from my usual format. This time, it's just you, me, and a topic that has been in high demand from my incredible listeners, especially my college students. Today, we're delving into the world of schedule mastery, a game-changing methodology that has transformed the way that I approach my daily life. You and I will be having a heart-to-heart about the tools and methodologies that have helped me to not only manage a hectic schedule, but also to rediscover my purpose in the midst of life's busyness. As I share my experiences, successes, and a few lessons learned along the way, I hope you'll feel inspiration and find practical tips to apply to your own life. So, whether you're juggling a demanding job, school, relationship, family responsibilities, or just feeling a bit overwhelmed by the chaos of daily life, stick around. Together, let's explore how schedule mastery can be a game changer in finding balance, purpose, and a renewed sense of direction in your current season of life. Thank you for being here. I'm thrilled to have you with me on this solo journey today. Hey everyone, welcome to the After Contract Hours podcast, the show where we clock out at work to check in on the well-being of the world. I'm your host, Courtney Heidorn, and this is my first episode outside of like the intro episode where I kind of talk about the why behind the podcast. This is my first episode kind of solo since that first initial one. So I'm going to be honest, it's weird. It's so weird because my vision with this podcast was to always, for every episode, have a special guest with somebody else kind of sharing their expertise and spreading their wealth of knowledge and their experience on life pertaining to a particular health education topic. But it's harder than I kind of originally thought to find time, even in my own personal schedule, to get a guest on for every episode. You know, I'm still a beginner to this podcast journey, and I have a lot of love and support in my corner for it, and I cannot thank these people enough. I love you all for those who have continuously reached out, asked about it, or, you know, have just been passing me in my hallway at work saying, can't wait for the next episode. My colleagues, you know, you guys are amazing, and I'm so appreciative, and that those are the moments where I'm reminded that, like, wow, okay, like, this is doing good things. And, you know, my podcast does have the potential to really help others, which is, you know, obviously the ultimate goal. So, I'm learning so much, and I'm ever evolving constantly with this podcast endeavors. I listen to other people's podcasts on a regular basis just to learn what I like, the do's and don'ts. And what I've really learned about this podcast endeavor is that I can do whatever I want with it. You know, it doesn't have to be this super structured, organized thing, which I ideally kind of want it to be, right? Like, I want there to be a flow. I want there to be a systematic process to this so people can easily follow along with it. But the con to having it like perfectly formatted is that then it just sounds like an overly structured piece of art. And I think that there are cons to that, because what I want my podcast to be is just an open, flowing, like an organically flowing conversation with other people, and not this structured perfect interview. And, you know, even with solo episodes with myself, it doesn't need to be structured. You know, like, I kind of started stressing out this morning, knowing in my heart that I wanted to record a solo episode, but also knowing myself, I'm such a perfectionist, and the teacher in me, right? The teacher mode clicked in. I was like, ooh, I need to write down all these notes. I need to take, print out paper that has all my bullet points. And sometimes I may do that, but today I don't need that, because the topic of today's episode is going to be all about our mental health and organizing our schedule of life in a way that is conducive and healthy for us. And the topic is called schedule mastery. So I'll break that down in a minute, but I just wanted to give a little bit of background that this is kind of weird for me, that here I am kind of just sitting in my room on my floor petting my dog as I talk to this microphone, and I don't have anybody else to talk to. It's just so bizarre. So give me grace. I'm excited to kind of dive into this, and I need to remember that, again, I'm a beginner to this, and if I want to do a solo episode, I am very qualified to do so. And sometimes I forget that. I get very insecure, with my own abilities, and I have all of the knowledge and qualifications necessary to provide information on my own and experiences of my own on my own podcast. So I'm going to give my own self grace, and I am really, really excited just to tap into this particular episode. I've had a ton of my middle school students and my high school students and my college age students, the young adult population. I've had so many requests from my students on how to manage stress better. And a lot of those requests came from my college age students who are full time students, right? That's number one. Their full time student is their occupation. Most of them are college athletes as well, on top of being full time students. And then you add to that as well the fact that they have part time jobs to stay afloat and make some money while in college. So, and then, again, we keep going down that ladder. A lot of people are juggling a romantic relationship and friendships and the social life of college. And it's becoming overwhelming to be a master at all of it. So, when I had a lot of my students request an episode on how to manage stress, I couldn't help but think instantly, why not share a topic that I am extremely passionate about and is something that I really wanted to be my original doctoral dissertation. It's called Schedule Mastery, but it didn't work out the way that I really wanted to accomplish that dissertation and the goals I had. The university couldn't accommodate that, so I had to kind of switch gears a little bit, but that's okay because I do have the most beautiful blessing and privilege to be able to travel around the state of Missouri, and hopefully at some point nationally to spread the news of this wonderful topic we're going to dive into today. I created a presentation on it, and I have been to some pretty amazing places the past couple of years and on some pretty awesome platforms to get the word out about this powerful topic. So hopefully, my middle school kiddos, my college student or kiddos, and my high school kiddos can tap into this episode and really take away some golden nuggets. I'm gonna try to link this presentation on the description of the episode in Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. So if you click it, it'll take you to the presentation and you can actually visually see what I'm kind of talking about. And that might help a lot more with organizing your thoughts and such. So here we go. Like I said, guys, the topic is called Schedule Mastery, Rediscovering Life's Purpose. All right. So diving into this, the goals that I have for you and listeners out there, what I would love for you to take away from this is that three things, right? One, I can identify specific titles or roles in your current season of life. That is goal number one, that you can identify kind of who you are in your current season of life. Number two, I want you to be able to list specific daily tasks and expectations that you have associated with the roles or titles that you are in your current season of life. And finally, the kind of big picture concept is that you guys can have the ability to create and implement a daily schedule with your time that is properly prioritized in order to maximize your life's purpose. Okay, lots of us are so overwhelmingly busy in life and we just feel like we're constantly drowning, and we have a never-ending to-do list and we have no idea how to juggle it and to be successful with all of the things that we have to do. So I am super excited in this episode to guide you on a journey that can help you with this, hopefully, because what we're going to talk about today with this schedule mastery topic is something that really changed my life and the trajectory of my life when it comes to mental health, balancing my time, managing my stress, and just becoming realistically a better person overall for myself first, but for everyone else that's in my corner as well. So jumping into this, a brief little background of me. Like whenever I give this presentation, I show this slide that is really obnoxious on purpose, and it has a bunch of terms that I chose to define myself. And some of them are really positive things about me, some of them are my flaws. Some of them are just random and weird. So, for example, things about me are that I'm a teacher, right? Which you guys, if you know me, know that. If you this is the first time tapping in, I am a middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade health and physical education teacher. I teach fitness courses. I teach team sports courses. And that's my main job. I also worked as an adjunct professor at 2 local universities in Missouri, and I taught mental health courses, fitness and wellness concepts, health and well-being in society courses. And then at the other university, I taught students how to teach health education and how to teach physical education because they are future educators in that field. So I'm a teacher. I was a coach for 12 plus years, track and field, cross country. I coached basketball for a while, swim at the high school level and middle school level. I was coaching experience, so that was really fun. I've just kind of gotten to a point where I need a break from coaching sports. I just really needed to work on me and step back for a while, and that's okay. And I've actually been really happy ever since I stopped coaching. So I just really am in an era of my life where I want to be a better teacher, and coaching kind of got in the way of that because it takes up so much of my time, and teaching is where my heart is. So I had to really kind of prioritize things in my life a little bit better. So anyways, additional to my career, I also had things written down that I'm a believer, right? I am ever evolving. I am an ever evolving child of God. I am far from perfect with keeping up with my faith journey, but I'm ever evolving. I am a student. I am in my hopefully final year of my doctoral journey, getting my PhD in health psychology. But other than that, I'm a wife to an incredible husband that I cannot imagine my life without. I am a daughter. I am a sister. I am a fur mama. I have a little puppy named Stella. She's my best little friend. Aside from that, I am joyful. I am passionate. I am hilarious. I like to think I'm goofy. I am obnoxious, but I'm also weird. I have a quirky personality. I'm capable. I am a writer. I love writing. I love it so much. I'm a work in progress. I am type A personality through and through. I'm very, very, very impulsive. I'm a perfectionist. If I haven't said that already, if I did, I'm repeating it because that's really what I am. I am patient. Most of the times, I've grown a lot in my patience skills, but I'm very impatient with a lot of things. I just try to bite my tongue and be patient in my impatient moments. But yeah, so again, if the slideshow, you'll see that I have this obnoxious slide that just says a bunch of random things. I also want to make note, and I see it written on this slide right now in front of me, that I am a workaholic. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more as I discuss my why. My why for creating this presentation on schedule mastery is because I was and still am just like so many of you that are listening to this, who are struggling with your time management and your prioritization of the things that you're doing in your life. I struggled horribly with all of the things. And it took me having to come face to face with a brutal reality check to realize that I needed help because I was doing too many things. I had so many things on my to-do list that I was falling short with, and I was failing over and over and over again in my own head, right? Like, I didn't have too many people in my life telling me that I was failing. I had my parents and my closest friends would make me aware of when I was struggling the most. And, no one really ever told me I was failing, but I'm my own worst critic for sure. And I would beat myself up over and over and over again if I felt like I was crumbling or if I was not accomplishing my to-do list, right? So, personal life experience in my reality check, guys, I was constantly drowning with a never-ending to-do list. And if I backtrack a little bit, so currently I'm age 32. I'll be 33 October 2024. But I was constantly drowning with this never-ending to-do list, really from the age of, if I'm being totally honest, like 14 up until 30, 31. Now I'd say 30. So about 15, 16 years of my life, I was in this horrible phase of just feeling like I was constantly drowning. I had a never-ending to-do list. I would find myself like having mental breakdowns. Now, when I say mental breakdowns, I don't mean like constant. I would just cry and cry and cry and, cause scenes and just be this hot mess. I mean, I was a hot mess, but I did a really good job at hiding it. I would really break down in the shower. I love crying in the shower for some reason. I'm not afraid to cry in front of other people. That's not what I'm saying. But like having a mental breakdown where I just totally crumbled, I really let that happen in the shower because I don't know, it felt good to have hot water like wash away my tears. It was just really like a healing space for me, as odd as that may sound to other people, but I would like every now and then I would just have a breakdown in the shower. I felt like I was failing others. Like I knew I was failing myself because I wasn't accomplishing everything that I wanted to get done on my daily to-do list. And as a result of failing myself, I knew that I was failing others because I wasn't getting things done on my list that were for other people that were asked of me. So that was really hard. I had a reality check. There was just a day where I woke up and I'm like, I am tired of feeling this way. Like my mom, who is the best unpaid therapist in the entire world, we talk multiple times a day, and she would be very, very direct with me and say, like, you need to stop. X, Y, and Z on your to-do list is not going to get done today or tomorrow or probably in a month from now, and you need to get over it, right? Like, she was my tough love critic, and I loved it. I respond very well to tough love. And my dad, too. My dad would get pretty blunt with me also, and it just harsher words, and it really snapped me out of it and made me realize that I'm not okay. And like the life that I'm living right now is not making Courtney okay. I am unhealthy, which is wild because here I am as a health education specialist and health psychology specialist and teacher in front of hundreds of kids and young adults, and I'm behind the scenes just absolutely crumbling, yet standing in front of all these people teaching them how to do the right thing, and I'm not even realistically modeling it myself, right? So I really had this like reality check. It just hit me one day, kind of like a rock bottom, I would say, for me. Everybody experiences their rock bottoms differently, but for me, mine was just I wasn't eating right. I wasn't exercising. I was exhausted all the time. I was crying all the time. And if you know me, that's like the total opposite of who I am to my core. I'm an avid health guru. It's a healthy lifestyle. That's what I am known for. I guess that would be my image or my brand. I'm very passionate about exercise and competing and taking care of myself with movement and eating right and all these things, and I just wasn't doing that for a very long time, and it just hit me like it was a mental health kind of crisis. Like, yes, my physical health was pretty miserable, but like luckily I have good genes, so even though I was eating crappy, it's not like I was showing that physically. People weren't looking at me and nobody was like, wow, you look really like you've packed on some pounds, or you look like you've really lost weight. Like, what's going on? This is concerning. Like, outwardly, that wasn't showing physically, but it was a mental and emotional thing. Like, I wear my stress on my sleeve, and my friends could see it, my family could see it, my colleagues could see it. And so, yeah, you get the point. I was just hitting like a really dangerous place for myself mentally. So I sought therapy. And it was the best decision I've ever made. I've never been somebody that has been against therapy or opposed to it. I've always wanted therapy. I'm a talker. I love talking and I love learning about myself. I love hearing advice. I love people who want to listen and help and give actionable advice. So I think the reason I just never dove into it sooner was because of the expenses. But when I learned that my teacher salary and my insurance, which is really great, could help cover the cost of therapy, I went for it. And it was truly the best decision ever. And I still go to it now and then. Like, I don't consistently go. I feel like I kind of go until I get to a point where, like, wow, okay, my mental health is in a much better place and I can do this on my own moving forward. And then if I'm really struggling again down the road, I'll just reach out again. So, which in my professional opinion, that's the purpose of therapy, is to get you to a really good space where you can apply your tools and knowledge learned from therapy on your own, right? Like good therapists want that for you. They don't want you to just keep coming back and writing a paycheck. Like they genuinely want what's best for your soul and to help you reach the goals that you want to reach. And then once you reach them, sayonara, like good luck, best of luck to you. I'm here whenever you need me in the future, right? So I've gone to several therapists also. I've explored different things because I've got a lot of weird things in my life that have made me want to seek therapy that at the time didn't really look like connected and what am I trying to say? I had a bunch of random reasons why I wanted to go therapy that didn't seem like they made sense together. Like I sought therapy once because of my family. Like I was really struggling with my family and my brother in life, and I really just wanted to seek family therapy. There were other times where I sought therapy for intimacy issues and affection issues, and that's just an example. And in my brain at the time, my family issues and my intimacy issues did not make sense to like talk about together. So I went to separate and different types of therapists for both of those topics. But what I learned after going to a bunch of different types of therapy, the bottom line is that all of those reasons for therapy are connected. They all stem from your life. And so you can just go to one therapist and talk about all of those different issues. And the therapy really does help tie all of those issues together into one so that it clicks in your brain and a light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, okay, sweet. So I don't need to go see just a family therapist. I don't need to just go see a sex therapist. I don't just have to go see a, mental health disorder therapist, right? Like you can really just go to one that can cover all of that if you do your research well. So I went to therapy, and what I learned pretty instantly was that I too, just like many family members in my family, am an addict. And, drug and alcohol addiction runs pretty wildly in my family all over. So I just never thought that I was an addict because I am not addicted to alcohol at all. I'm, in fact, not a big drinker in general, never have been, never will be. I've never done drugs to know if I'm addicted, so that'll probably stay a consistent thing. I really have no desire to experiment with that in any way, shape, or form. So I've just always thought like, okay, like I'm not an addict, like I'm good. But why am I struggling so much? Like, and so when I went to therapy, I learned that I am addicted to chaos. I am a perfectionist. And this chaos addiction stems from my childhood, which can be another episode down the road, but that's just what I learned essentially, and it all made sense. And I was, in fact, clinically diagnosed through therapy as a workaholic and a perfectionist, which are both mental disorders. So that was really fascinating to me and really eye-opening. I always just coined addiction as like a drug or alcohol addiction. And I've heard of sex addiction and, other types of addictions in that realm, like things that can really mess up your physical health. But I always thought that I wasn't an addict because I wasn't those things. But I learned that I am, in fact, an addict. I'm addicted to work, and I'm addicted to trying to achieve perfectionism, which is totally impossible. And I now know that, but I didn't know that. So when I learned those things about me through therapy, I really wanted to fix this for myself. And I really am someone that wants more of like a holistic approach. I don't want to be just given drugs and medicine and let that be the band-aid. I really want to dive deep, and I'm not afraid of learning scary things and hard things and, trying to tackle those things about myself. So I got some tools from my therapist, and I really stumbled across a pastor named Ben Stuart, who is my favorite pastor. Unfortunately, he is located in D.C., Washington, D.C., and I'm in Missouri, so I can't physically go see him, but I listen to his sermons online all the time. I bought his book called Rest and War, and I actually was so in love with that book because chapter 10 in his book of Rest and War, Rhythms of a Well-Fought Life, chapter 10 is what introduced me to this schedule mastery topic, and that is what changed the trajectory of my whole life. So all this background information to say that I wanted to let you know that that's kind of how I got where I am today with the schedule mastery. And I was so passionate about his book which is all about spiritual components too, like faith and God and Jesus, and how all of those elements tie into living a well-fought life. But his book is really all about um, acknowledging that, like, listen, we all struggle, and we're all going to continue struggle the rest of our life. Like, he's very blunt, he's very transparent with this. He's not here to say, like, oh, read this book and you're going to have a great, wonderful life the rest of your life. No, the title itself says Rest and War, the rhythms of a well fought life, because we are all going to continuously fight for our life, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, right? Spiritually, all of these things, relationally. And we just need to learn how to fight well and put up a good fight for all of them. So I hope you guys can, if nothing else speaks to you about this whole entire episode, I hope you can look into this book, and I'll link it in the description of this episode, but it really did change my life. And again, chapter 10 is all about the schedule mastery process that we're going to be talking about. And the last thing I want to make note of in my why, about why I wanted to make this presentation, is because, like I said in the beginning, I've had a ton of college students and high school students and even middle school students come to me expressing the high levels of stress that they have with their busy schedules, or just not even feeling like they have a purpose in life. Like, depression is running rampant in my middle school teaching experience in these kids. I see it. They talk to me about it. You know, we're exposed to it as teachers everywhere. In fact, a lot of teachers that I work with and colleagues that I have in the district and just friends in general that I have in my life struggle with anxiety and depression. It runs rampant in my family. I definitely struggle with anxiety from time to time. I've never dipped my toes into the world of depression. You know, I've had funks that I've gone through for like a couple of days at a time, but I've just never clinically been diagnosed with anxiety or depression. And I have more of a holistic approach when it comes to like healing things and fixing things for myself. I'm not opposed to medication, like if I really, really, really needed it physically. But when it comes to mental health and me, I would just much rather try to solve things on my own with the help of a therapist and just talking things through and educating myself on things that can help me, and not just putting a band-aid on it with medicine. But that's just to each their own. That's my opinion. But bottom line, the point I'm trying to make is that depression and anxiety is running rampant all over the place. And this is the most highly asked for and requested episode to talk about stress management and how to overcome a busy schedule. So we're going to diving right into it. I just want to make sure you all understood kind of my background and, you know, where I came from, and just know that I am sharing with you my experiences with this, and I'm excited to dive into this with you. So what I want you to ask yourself before we really get into the schedule mastery piece is, who are you? Right? Like, I shared about myself. You know, I'm happy, I'm optimistic, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a student, I'm a teacher, I'm a perfectionist, I'm a workaholic, right? All these things. If someone were to ask you that question in a group setting, for example, let's say that you're in a class, right? You're taking a new class and it's the first day of school, and the professor walks around and asks you to stand up and introduce yourself and tell us about yourself. First of all, hello, anxiety. I think we all would freak out about that. But really, like, what would you say about yourself? How would you introduce yourself? Would you panic and have absolute nothing but air and silence and breath coming from your mouth? Would you talk about your career? Most likely. I hesitate with that because that is depending on what age you are, and what stage of life you're in as you listen to this episode right now. Let's focus on career real quick. I think so many of us, when we introduce ourselves to anyone, we say our name and then we're so quick to just talk about our career. Like, that's who we are. We identify mostly with our career. Or if you're a student right now in college, you say, oh, I go to this college. This is my major and I play sports here. Or if you are a teenager, right, you know, you say your name, and that might be the only thing that you say, because at that age, you're really trying to figure out who you are still, which is perfectly fine. But my main point is that a lot of us struggle to answer that question with confidence, right? Um, and the truth of it is you are so much more than your career. I am so much more than just a teacher, right? But ask me that question 5 years ago, I probably would have only said that and just talked about my career, because in a sick and twisted way, we are raised in society with education and schooling, to kind of really put all of our eggs in the identity basket of our career, right? But what if I lost my job tomorrow? What if I stopped becoming a teacher? I was no longer a teacher, and if that was the only thing I identified myself as, now I'm really in trouble. I have no idea who I am, and that's going to cause a whole slew of more mental health issues. So it's okay, completely okay, if right now you only identify yourself as one thing, and that might be your career or your student or your sports that you're training for as the athlete that you are. That's okay, right? But this topic is really going to shed light on the multiple different things that you are, and make you aware that there's so much more to you than just one thing, which is going to help you identify your purpose in life, and it's going to be a beautiful thing. So, who are you? I want you to kind of think about too, like, your personality type. I know there's a bunch of different ones, but like type A versus type B, for example. Like, let's start simple. Type A personalities, we kind of multitask. We're really competitive. We have a ton of ambition. We, for the most part, are very well organized. We don't like wasting time. We get impatient or irritated whenever we feel like our time is being robbed from us or if things are delayed. We spend a lot of our time focused on work, and we tend to be highly focused on our goals. Type B personality, you're more open to flexibility. Like, oh, this didn't work out, no worries. Like, we can make this work instead. Like, a type A personality person would be freaking out if plan A didn't work, right? Type B personality have way less stress levels, more of a relaxed attitude, more adaptability to change, more even-tempered, laid back, which can be really great things. But they also have a tendency to procrastinate a lot, which can be a major con. But they also, again, with all these personality traits, they tend to be more patient. So kind of opposite of type A. So if you had to pick one of those two categories, I'd just like to start off with this, with you kind of just asking yourself where you are right now. You could be a combination of both, and that's okay too. But just to kind of, as we enter into these learning strategies for yourself, kind of thinking about who you are right now. Before we also get into more details, I want you to contemplate before you criticize. So some of you may have started this episode. Hopefully you're listening to this episode because you are wanting to listen to these tools and traits. I don't think many people are just listening to podcast episodes looking to criticize them. But I do always say this during my presentations, like, contemplate before you criticize, right? Think about the ways that you have currently tried to manage your stress or balance your schedule more, and what strategies you've used. You may realize that those things didn't work for you, and maybe that's why you're listening to this episode, because you're looking for, right, like, answers that can help bring you more peace in life. So before you criticize what these strategies may be today in this episode, really contemplate the things that you've tried that clearly may not be working for you. Like, most of you listening to this may be in a situation where you are genuinely looking for help and looking for guidance on simple things, hands-on tools and practical tools that you can apply and make a quick application for, so you can get more quicker results. So you may realize that you already do some sort of the schedule mastery practice that you're going to learn here in a moment in your own life. And number one, if you do realize that you do this already, be proud of yourself, because schedule mastery is not easy to do. Keep up the good work and stay consistent, right? Like, maybe this episode for you will just be reiteration or validation for you that you are doing something good for you in this realm of stress management and getting your schedule more easy to juggle, right? And number three, like, help to spread the good word to others who are struggling around you. This validating message for you may be just what you need to go, okay, like, I am on the right track. Like, I'm not crazy. I need to keep doing this. And then share that message with other people. Share with other people around you what you're doing that is helping you to manage your stress, because that's what we need. Like, this podcast episode is just one method of communication to help others, right? Like, there are so many other voices in this world that can take this information and pass it along to reach more people. And that's the ultimate goal. So what I first want to do for you is define the difference between schedule victim and schedule master, right? This kind of goes back to Ben Stewart's book, Rest and War, Rhythms of a Well-Fought Life. I'm getting all this information from his book, so I'm not plagiarizing anything. Yes, I'm sharing with you my own personal experiences with this schedule mastery, but all of the bulk of what schedule mastery is directly from his book. Again, which will be linked in all of the descriptions of this episode. So a schedule victim, what does it mean to be a victim to your schedule? Ben Stewart states in his book, meaninglessness stalks the modern man and woman. And I want to repeat that for you a little bit slower. Meaninglessness stalks the modern man and woman. Basically, what he is saying, guys, is that as human beings in society today, our daily schedules are jam-packed with completely pointless crap, and it's completely suffocating us, right? We do a lot of pointless things that takes a lot of valuable time out of our day and leaves us just drowning in misery and pain and frustration and failure and self-critique, right? I love this quote that he says also. So many of us are living life each day like an octopus on roller skates. There's plenty of movement going on, but not necessarily any movement forward. I love this illustration. It's so true, and I tell my students this all the time because this visual aid that he paints for us in his book, this octopus on roller skates, like think of all these legs of an octopus on rollerblades. There's so much movement. All 8 legs or however many legs are moving like crazy on these rollerblades, but they're not really moving forward. They're just in one space moving like crazy, right? How many of us can relate to that, right? You have your never-ending to-do list, a drowning, in fact, to-do list, right? That is suffocating you to the point where you were having mental breakdowns like I was. You're, self-destructing, essentially, because you feel like a constant failure. Because you're doing, go with this to-do list. But when have you really consistently felt like that movement was progressing you forward in your life and in your day to where you could lay your head down at night and feel like, dang, I just really accomplished an amazing day. I got a lot done and I moved forward towards a goal that I have, right? So a lot of us are living that way, and I still am an octopus on roller skates from time to time. Absolutely. Like, I for sure don't have a perfect system in place for me. And I fall out of these good habits of schedule mastery, and I'm this octopus again. But I catch it a lot quicker now because of this education and practice and application, and I can get out of it a lot quicker and make sure that I'm just Courtney with 2 legs with rollerblades, and I am streamlining, going straight forward, and very progressive and applicable with the things I want to get done. So we want you to be that version of yourself. We want you to be you with good 2 feet, with safe, strong rollerblades that are progressing you forward in life on a good trail, rather than an octopus with 800 legs, 800 rollerblades, and you're just moving in one spot, not getting much accomplished. It's really time that we open our eyes to the impact that society has with this meaninglessness productivity, right? Like, what is this meaninglessness productivity, this octopus on skate visualization, what it has caused on society, the impact it's caused, right? So I want to dive into like real talk, anxiety, loneliness, addiction, and depression. So all of what I'm going to say right now is directly pulled from Ben Stewart's book. He provides a lot of statistics and recent data. I will say that some of the data is like around the COVID time, like during COVID or right after COVID. And I know that we are several years post-COVID, but we all know that there are still a lot of daunting effects that COVID had on our world that still are lingering. So just kind of keep that in mind. But his book says that in 6 months between 2020 and 2021, the percentage of adults with anxiety or depressive disorder increased from 36.4% to 41.5%. These increases were largest among adults aged 18 to 29 years. So my primary college student age, my young adult population, your age group is the highest where this anxiety and depressive disorder has increased just in that 6-month time period. Again, that was during COVID prime time, so that makes sense. And I think a lot of us went through that phase. But that statistic was directly pulled from the U.S. Census Bureau and the CDC, and again was quoted in the book from Ben Stuart. Next, he says that loneliness has reached epidemic proportions in the United States as people of all ages and backgrounds struggle to find a sense of belonging. The statistic coming from Cigna Health, also quoted in Ben Stewart's book. A sense of belonging, right? Who are you? If you can't even answer a few things about who you are, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to find that sense of belonging and find a social support and a group of people that you feel comfortable and safe being with, right? I know, for example, my school that I teach at, like our district, our school district in general, is very passionate about this sense of belonging and cultivating this urgent sense of belonging redemption for students, because we know that kids K through 12 are struggling immensely with this. So, our schools have incorporated a lot of things and practices and methodologies in place to help kids see this sooner for themselves before they enter the real world as a young adult. So I think that's a really beautiful thing. But yeah, finding a sense of belonging has been a very, very difficult thing for many people. In addition to Cigna Health's findings, only half of Americans say that they have meaningful in-person interactions on a daily basis. That is approximately 165 million Americans that participated in this Cigna survey, claiming that, again, only half of Americans have meaningful in-person interactions on a daily basis. Now, if you break that down, like meaningful interactions, not just saying hi, bye, passing in the hallway, passing at work, in the office, in class, whatever, right? What meaningful interactions in person, diving a little bit deeper in conversation with somebody with an electronic device not present or interrupting that, right? Like half of our Americans claim that they don't have that on a daily basis. And that is so daunting to me because, again, I'm getting my doctorate in health psychology. Like, we are born, human beings are meant to connect to one another and have these meaningful connections in person. And I know, yes, you can connect you can connect virtually, which is a beautiful addition, but also look at how much destruction virtual interactions have caused with cyberbullying today and ghosting people, right? Like that's, what that has caused people who are looking for love or friendships or just those meaningful interactions in general. Virtual connections have really, really failed a lot of us. In the atmosphere of relentless restlessness and shallow social connections, addiction has risen to new heights, right? So Ben's book talks on alcohol addiction, drug addiction, pornography addiction, and incessant scrolling on our screens have all become habits to distract us from stress. Distract us from stress. That's a problem in itself, right? So many of us are drowning in this stress, but you're not taking proactive measures to learn about your stress. Number one, what's causing it? Where is it stemming from? And then what are healthy ways that you can approach this pain and cope with it, as opposed to distracting yourself with all the things that I just listed that are directly stated from his book. Addictions have risen to new heights because we're simply just trying to get out of ourselves that instant gratification, right, from our stressful feelings. What can take me out of this? What can remove me from this instantly? I'm going to go have a drink or 5. I'm going to go do some drugs. I'm going to watch porn. I'm going to scroll on my screen incessantly to get myself out of this because that's an immediate fix. That's a Band-Aid. That's all it is. It's a Band-Aid, right? Attacking these things for yourself takes time. It's hard. It's very hard work. It's painful, but long-term effects is going to be so worth the difficult, process that you're going through to actually handle your stress. So like Ben says, rather than alleviating our problems, all of these new addictions have created more problems and have only increased the anxiety and isolation that we've attempted to escape, right? Gallup, which is a global health analytics company, recorded in 2019 that the lowest levels of happiness in the United States occurred in 2019. So this was like right before COVID really hit us. The lowest levels of happiness was recorded, like right prior to COVID, and then kind of like right when it started. Lowest levels of happiness in our country. In Gallup's 70 plus years of researching well-being, that was the lowest level of happiness, which just blows my mind. So what does all of this statistics say to you? What does all this background information say to you? Like, if you're thinking about this and wondering, or if maybe you didn't have like an initial like gut reaction to that data, point blank, we're not looking so good as a society, Ben Stuart says, right? In the relatively safest time for humans to exist on the planet, we find ourselves disoriented and disturbed, he says. We are exhausted, discouraged, and uncertain about how to address our situation, he says, and that's the stuff that leads us to that Band-Aid fix, right? The incessant scrolling on our screen, the addictions rising to new heights because we're so exhausted and discouraged and uncertain about how to address our stress and our confusion in life that we just go for the Band-Aid fix. And it's causing total destruction in our society. So ultimately, guys, we need to realize that the atmosphere has changed, right? We went through COVID. Our nation went through a lot of trials and tribulations over these past few years. And the atmosphere has changed. Our society has changed. And in order to survive, we have to be willing to adapt to our current reality. So that is what a victim to your schedule is someone, in other words, who is just being stalked by meaninglessness on a regular basis. I want to really focus on a daily basis here, right? Meaninglessness is stalking us, and we are struggling a lot to pull ourselves out of it, right? Because we're just getting sucked into the screen scrolling, the addictions, doing things that are a Band-Aid fix, and we're just an octopus on skates. We're not progressing forward. We're just drowning continuously in our days and constantly feeling like a failure and feeling like we don't have a purpose in our season of life right now. So now we need to talk about what becoming a master of your schedule actually looks like. What does that mean? And Ben Stuart breaks this down for us. So what does it mean to be a master of my schedule? Ben states in his book, "When you see the eternal touch the mundane, it will thrill your soul with a sense of meaning." I'm going to say that again. When you see the eternal touch the mundane, it will thrill your soul with a sense of meaning. Basically, guys, when we finally realize our life's potential and purpose, the dull and meaningless routine that we live is going to vanish, and we're going to live a much happier life, right? Once we find our life's potential and purpose, the meaninglessness stops. It comes to a vicious halt, and it's a beautiful thing, and we can finally move forward, no longer being the octopus on skates that we are and have been for so long, and we can actually make an impact on this world and for our life. Ben talks about cultivation leading to flourishment, right? What are cultivators? Cultivators are people who bring order where there is no order. Cultivators are people who create structures that support the flourishing of life. And this is a central part of why we're even here on this planet today. The process of cultivation, Ben says, requires removing some things that are extraneous, inefficient, or unhelpful in order to add things that are beneficial. So, for example, removing things in our life that are extraneous, inefficient, or unhelpful, right? Think of things in your life that are those things. Well, I can tell you that scrolling on TikTok for 2 hours is inefficient or unhelpful. most of the time for a lot of us. Not saying that it's for everybody, right? Because there's a lot of awesome freaking TikTok stuff out there. Like, I get sucked into rabbit holes of learning things. Like, I'll stumble on like a teacher hack, and then I'll just click that link or click the search bar and continue searching that particular topic to learn from this content. And my husband does the same thing. It looks like he's just scrolling on his phone all the time, like when he's home from work, but he's not just aimlessly scrolling most of the time. He's learning new things about construction because he just opened up his company. He's watching videos that are providing him with inspiration for what he can do whenever he's at his next job site. Like, I remember I used to be like, ew, like, why is he always on his phone? But when I called him out on it one time, like, playfully, I saw that and I was like, okay, yeah, like, that's dope. Like, keep it up, and we both do that. But of course, there are times that we get sucked into just the entertainment aspect of social media, and that's okay every now and then, for sure, in small doses. But yeah, that's a prime example of where my students and my college kids and my colleagues and friends and family, like, that's inefficient stuff that's dragging us down, and the process of cultivation involves us removing those things and replacing it with things that are beneficial. It means organizing and arranging things so that they are maximally fruitful to our days on earth, right? So it's one thing to remove things that are not helpful and to replace those with things that are helpful, but then we have to organize and arrange those things in a way that makes sense in our daily schedule that helps us to flourish, right? So Ben says, think about it. We don't vacation in a lawless country, right? Like, when you go on vacation to Florida or Mexico or, I don't know, I don't vacation much, so I'm struggling to even think of vacationing things. But Florida, you don't go on a beach vacation in America where there are no laws, right? There are laws on the beach. You can't have glass containers because if you did and something broke, you could injure somebody. You can't. I'm still struggling to even think about more. Again, I don't vacation, but don't run around the pool, because you're gonna slip and fall and hurt yourself. Like, those are, rules and regulations that are put into place to keep you safe. There are laws in the state of Florida when you're on vacation, right? Like crime laws. You can't do this or do that because you'll get in trouble with the law. So you don't go on vacation. You don't go to a place to really free your mind and recharge and be happy at a place that's going to be completely free-spirited and no laws are in place. There are rules and structures put into place on vacation so that you can flourish and have fun, right? Like, they want to make sure that you're safe in this happy space, that you can maximize your vacation, okay? He also says that form leads to freedom. Structure leads to life, right? So examples of cultivators, architects, engineers, those are cultivators who create physical structures that will stand strong and allow us to live and work in them. Financial managers are cultivators who invest our money in ways that maximize its potential and how we use it. Teachers are cultivators who organize curricula and develop classrooms so that children learn and can grow safely. Spouses are cultivators who organize their time, money, and energy in ways that allow their partner to flourish, right? So all of us are cultivators. Every single human being on this planet has purpose to be a cultivator and to bring structure and form that leads to freedom in this life, right? So that's really what schedule mastery, this whole method is going to bring us. It's going to open your eyes to things that you do in your day that are meant to bring structure and form. Guys, like, as human beings, we do thrive with a little bit of structure. Okay, some more than others. Like, my dad and I always joke, like, we need a routine in our life, and if we lose sight of that and we get out of a routine, we completely crumble and our mental health starts to struggle, right? And we start to kind of crash and burn slowly and miserably. So, we have to create new routines because sometimes routines get old and stagnant, and it's up to us to recreate them for ourselves. And so we need that structure in our days to flourish and feel good about ourselves. And when I say flourish, for those of you that maybe you're younger and you're not understanding like what that means, to flourish means to thrive, to be happy, to be healthy, to be everything you want to be in this life, right? But in order to reach that, we do need a little bit of structure. So that's what schedule mastery is going to help you to do. What this practice is it's not about just simply keeping the modern calendar, right? Like, guys, we all have a calendar. We all have phones that have resources to remind us about things. We have calendar access. We have planners. We have all of these things that most of us probably already use. So this practice of schedule mastery is not just going to show you how to use a calendar. It's much, much, much more than that. It's about figuring out how to sync up purpose with balance. And that's what I'm excited to share with you with this thing. Ben Stuart quotes in his book that more than just a long to-do list, this schedule mastery practice helped my clients to see how the work they were doing tied directly to the reason for being here, or AKA their why. How the work that they were doing correlated with the purpose that they are on this earth. So it's a really beautiful, beautiful feeling. He says that what at first seemed like a tedious act of calendaring soon became his client's favorite part of the week because, again, when they put the work in of this seemingly tedious act of calendaring for themselves, they would see their week unfold and blossom and be so ungodly flourishing. And we want that for you. He states that he wants that for the readers of his book. He wants us to all feel this freedom and liberation, right? Cultivation leads to freedom. Form leads to structure. And all of that brings us this inner peace and literal and figurative freedom that we all are looking for. We all need a guide that will equip us, teach us, and show us how to move forward, leading to rest for our souls. And that is what all of these kids and students of mine are begging for. They are begging, figuratively on their hands and knees, and some of them, I am sure, praying on their hands and knees at night, just begging and praying to have peace in their life and to get them out of this vicious cycle of go, 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 go. How can I escape this and still be happy? What is my purpose? I need this rest for my soul. And that is what this schedule mastery process does. So we're going to get into the methodology and application. There are 4 parts to this schedule mastery process. I'm going to break it down for you. Again, this is all linked in the description of this podcast episode so you can see a visual aid. There are links that you can click and access to actually work on with this. So like, for example, if you click a certain link in the presentation, it takes you to your own worksheet that I created so that you can actually do this on your own for each of the 4 parts. It's really powerful. So part 1 is methodology and application. I'm sorry, that's not part 1. That's just the process that we're on right now, is the methodology and application. So part 1 is called identifying my titles. So part 1 of the schedule mastery, guys, I need you to ask yourself, what daily titles and roles do you hold yourself accountable for? What daily titles or roles do other people expect from you each day? Now, important to remember is that these must be daily titles and roles, pretty close to daily. But the goal is to think of things that you expect of yourselves every single day. I want you to challenge yourself and set a goal of discovering at least 4 to 5 titles and roles, or 4 to 5 things that you are, right? We talked about that in the beginning, like who am I? Who is Courtney Hydorn? I named wife, sister, teacher, coach, student, all these things, right? Workaholic. Those are all titles and roles. So I want you to think about 4 to 5 of those for yourself. One of those titles and roles absolutely has to be a self-caretaker. You can rephrase that role any way you wish, but I just wanted to make it simple. It needs to be a self-love practice. Like, you are someone who is taking care of yourself. That has to be one of your titles and roles. And sadly, a lot of you probably won't even have realized that that's one of your titles and roles because you don't currently take care of yourselves. That's not something that you're having on the forefront of your brain, right? But they absolutely has to be one of your 4 to 5 roles. So I have an example on my PowerPoint that you have access to see, and I have 6 things listed. My 6 titles and roles: number 1 is a child of God. I am an active and ever-growing believer, so I do think of that on a daily basis. Again, am I perfect with it? Absolutely not. But every day I do cognitively think of my relationship with God. I may not be the greatest at diving into the Bible and, reading things and learning something and practicing it, but I'm always aware of it. Even if it's at the end of the day, I'm like, oh crap, I'm so tired. I'm going to bed. I completely forgot to read my devotional today, but I'm just going to go to bed. I'll do it tomorrow, right? Like I do that from time to time. I forget a lot and I need to start setting reminders, but I'm aware of it every day. And so I am a child of God. That's one of my titles. Number 2, I put a relationship builder, but in parentheses, I have like wife, daughter, sister, friend. I've taught this presentation, or I've shared this presentation many, many times. And so I kind of change it depending on what audience I'm presenting to. So in the past, instead of it saying relationship builder, I would be very specific and just say wife, right? Or a daughter or a sister, right? And I would really focus on that particular role. But for the sake of this general presentation, I put relationship builder. Number 3, I am a fur mama, right? Like I am nurturing and I'm taking care of my dog Stella. I don't have a physical human being child yet, but I am a mom to a creature that I am responsible for every day for keeping alive and fulfilled. Number 4, I am a teacher and coach, right? Both at my full-time teaching job and at local universities. I am a student. Like I said, I'm in progress of my PhD. And my 6th one is that self-care taker. I need to be doing things to keep myself healthy and balanced. So those are my 6 roles: child of God, relationship builder, fur mama, teacher and coach, student, and self-care taker. So now you just need to start thinking about those things for yourself. Like I'm going to keep chugging along with this information, but you can pause this podcast and you can kind of think about what your titles and roles could be if you're driving and listening to this in the car. Or on your lunch break, like you can just kind of pause this for some silence and really just reflect on some roles and titles that you are. If you're really invested in this episode, it's really going to be beneficial for you to actually write things down. That's why I have in this presentation that will be linked for you. I have all of the worksheets available for you. So to really get the most out of this, you're going to want to write things down. But again, if you're just driving and listening to this, that's perfectly fine. If nothing else, it'll at least get you thinking in the right direction. So part 2, we are going to organize our tasks. You're going to ask yourself, for each of those titles and roles, what are at least 3 tasks that you must accomplish in order to fulfill that title and role on a daily basis, right? So in other words, like when you lay your head down at night, do you feel like you accomplished that role? So, asking myself, Courtney, when I laid my head down at night, do I feel like I was a good mom to Stella today? What were 3 things that I did for her that helped me to lay my head down at night feeling like, dang, I did good with her today. Like I'm a good dog mom. I could get another dog and I'd be great, right? But you're going to ask yourself of that for each of the roles that you listed. So I have 6 roles. What are 3 tasks that day, each day, that I really need to do to fulfill that particular role? Guys, remember, these 3 tasks should each be things that are necessary to fulfill that title or role, not things that you would just want to do that would be great to do, right? Like it would be great, for example, to be able to take Stella to the dog park every single day for 2 hours to let her socialize and run around, but weather gets in the way of that. My to-do list may get in the way of that. So that's a want, that's not a need, right? So make sure that these 3 tasks for each role are things that absolutely are necessary. So my example, my child of God role, right? Each day, my goal is to read in my devotional, to express gratitude, and to pray at some point. Another thing you want to keep in mind, guys, is that these tasks should be measurable. And what that means is that they are easy to see and track. That you are able to literally see and measure, yep, I could check that off my to-do list. Like that was a measurable thing. Another way that I can explain this is that my husband could walk in and see me tangibly doing these tasks. And that's proof that I got them done, right? So for my devotional, it is measurable because it's an actual app. And I go into my Bible app and I read the devotional, I listen to the video, and it literally checks off my Bible app on my phone. So that's a tangible, measurable task, right? Expressing my gratitude, that's part of that devotional. Like I write down in the app what I'm grateful for that day. That's a measurable thing. You can see it on my app. And then prayer, same thing like the gratitude. I write that down in my app. But sometimes if I forget to do that, or if I'm running short on time in the morning, I pray in my car out loud a lot of the times. So I speak it into existence. I verbalize it. That is measurable. My relationship builder role, okay, 3 tasks for that each day, as a wife, daughter, sister, friend, colleague, right? Daily task number 1 is I am sure to love these people in my life that I'm building relationships with, or show love. Quality time and staying in touch. Fur Mama with Stella, love, quality time, socialize. In my teacher and coach role, I plan, I prepare, and I love. As a student, I make sure I use the tutoring apps that I need to be successful in my classes. I study, I read literature, and I research. And finally, in my self-caretaker role, I am intentional about taking care of my physical well-being, my mental and emotional well-being, and my social well-being. So again, part 2, you're organizing your tasks. You're basically just breaking down these roles and justifying why they're so important in your day, right? You should be able to think of 3 things, 3 tasks to accomplish for each of those roles. If you are struggling to think of 3 tasks for one of the roles that you've listed or thought of, that may be an indication for you that it's not really a mandatory role of yours in that day, right? So, for example, you might have friend down as one of your daily tasks and roles, but when you're organizing your tasks, you can only think of one thing on a daily basis that you would do to fulfill that task, which might look like something like texting your friends every day. That's great. That's really great. But what are 2 other things that you could do daily to meet that friend goal? Well, you might scratch your head at that and be like, I don't know. I'm really busy. I don't really know how else I could be a great friend every single day. And that's fine. But that may not be a mandatory role of your life on a daily basis, you see, right? So my 6 things, I easily thought of 3 tasks for these 6 roles of mine because they are very, 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 very important to me. All right, moving on. So at this time, if you want to pause the podcast, again, reflect, write things down for your tasks and organizing those for each of the roles that you've listed, go ahead and do that. But for now, I'm going to keep moving. We are now on part 3 of 4, which is where we become a master. So ask yourself, for each of those tasks that you just listed, right? So part 1 was listing your titles and roles. Part 2 was listing 3 tasks for each role. Now you're going to look at each task that you just listed. What are at least 1 to 3 expectations that you must accomplish in order for you to fulfill those tasks? So as you can see, or as you're hearing, you might be now realizing that we're basically just like expanding upon each step. So this is a very tedious process, but the beautiful thing about this is once you do it once and you really dive into it, it becomes so much easier and quicker for you to think of these things. And that's how it is for me now. Like the first time I did this schedule mastery, it took me probably a good 2 hours because I was really diving deep into my life and thinking about what my purpose is, who I am as a person. Like that first time I really did this, it took me a good 2 hours. And I was doing it during summer school a couple summers ago when my kids were taking their final exam. I just sat at my desk and I had my pen and paper and I mapped all of this crap out. So now, today, 2 years later, I can do it within 5 minutes. It's a really, really wonderful thing. So, back to the purpose of this 3rd step, you are breaking down each task that you just listed in 1 to 3 expectations. An important reminder, guys, these expectations should each be things that make you think, wow, I feel good about fulfilling that task today, right? And just like the tasks, these expectations should be measurable. So, my example, okay? Number one, my first title was a child of God. So if you remember, my 3 daily tasks for those, or for that role, was number one, a devotional. Number 2 was gratitude. And number 3 was prayer. So my expectations of my devotional, guys. So the purpose of writing now these expectations of the task is to really validate for you that this is a role daily that you need in your life, right? So rewind a couple minutes ago when I said if you're struggling to think of 3 tasks for your roles, that may not be very important for you on a daily basis. And we're looking for daily basis roles, right? And titles. So if you can't think of 3 tasks, that may not be something important in your life. Well, expand that further. Maybe you still wanted to roll with that thing. Maybe you are so passionate about making this friend role of yours on a daily basis important to you. Well, maybe now you're trying to break down this task of being a friend and texting them every day because you're now thinking about what your expectations are, and now you're struggling to think of what your expectations of those texts to your friend should look like. And again, that might just be more answers for you that, like, being a friend every single day may not be realistic for you right now in your current season of life. That may be a very clear sign to you that you need to get that pressure off of your back, take that out of your list of roles and titles on a daily basis that you expect to be, right? Get rid of that. What is something more important that really needs your time and attention daily, right now in your phase of life? This doesn't mean forever. This is like your current season of life, right? Like you're a college student right now on winter break. For the next semester of your life, that could be a season of your life, right? This is going to look different than the summer, next summer. So just focus on right now. Being a perfect friend may not be a thing that you really need. Back to my example. Okay, devotional, right? So an expectation of my devotional is it's the first thing I do after I wake up each day. So if I wake up, my alarm goes off, and I sit up in bed and I open my Bible app, like that's when I know that I'm fulfilling this task of my day. If I forget to do it in the morning, or maybe I wake up late and I don't do it, I rarely remember to do it before I go to bed at night. So it's like I just know myself. I need to get it done in the morning. Gratitude, right? For my child of God role, my gratitude task, like I said, I journal and I write that down in my app. I take mental note of things that I'm grateful for on my drive to work. And then I add that in my app if I think of something new throughout the day. And then finally, my third task is prayer, right? And like I said earlier, I write that prayer down in my app, or I say it out loud in my car. At my school, one of my best friends started this little Together Tuesday, like worship thing. And whenever we have that, we pray together. So that's another measurable way to do it. But that's only on Tuesdays. So the other days I'm just intentional, or I try to be intentional about writing it in my app. Okay, so for my second role, is that relationship builder, right? So my 3 tasks were love, quality time, and stay in touch. So what are my expectations for my daily task of love? What does love look like from Courtney, right? Love from my husband towards other people might look different than what love from me looks like to other people, or even towards each other, right? Like if you think about the 5 love languages, fantastic book and a really good building block for relationships. But what does it look like for me? So I define love, and what love looks like for me when I'm building relationships with people as a wife, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a colleague, is respect. One of my expectations of love is showing respect to others, right? So respect for me is, I'm kind. I listen to people when they talk to me. I ask questions about their life. I'm mindful of their schedule. I'm mindful and highly aware of their body language, right? So if I feel like someone's uncomfortable, like I shut things down very quickly. I think that's a huge sign of respect. Another expectation I have of showing love to people that I care about is compassion. I give them grace. I show them grace. I try really hard not to be judgmental and act a certain way towards people when they're struggling. I'm very compassionate. I also, and my third expectation of showing love is being an active listener, right? I try my best when people are coming to me to not be on my phone, not multitasking, and I'm making eye contact. I'm listening. I'll ask questions periodically about what they're talking about, or I'll repeat things back to them. Like if they are venting about something, I might say, "Ugh, I get it." It's like just to make sure I'm clear. Like I'm hearing you say that X, Y, and Z is what is making you so upset about this guy that you're dating, right? And then my friend would be like, yeah, exactly. And I'm like, okay, perfect. So continue. Just to show them that I'm listening, right? My second task for that is, for the role of being a relationship builder, is quality time. So, what are my expectations of quality time? Well, I love going for walks with my husband. That's a way we are spending quality time together. Having dinner together, having meals together with my friends and family is quality time, and not being on our phones. Playing sports is a really big one for me. That's quality time with my friends and family and my husband. We don't do it all the time, but like we join volleyball leagues, and when the weather is right, my husband and I will sometimes go play pickleball here and there if the weather is fun. Um, Quality time even with my colleagues, like who I work with. Like we'll play sports with our students and jump in, and the coaches get involved, and like that's quality time. Like we talk about it, we laugh about it. Like when that class is over, we get together at lunch and we laugh about the memory we just created playing dodgeball with the kids or whatever game that we played, right? And then the third task of my relationship builder is staying in touch, right? So my expectation of what staying in touch looks like is at least shoot a text, or to the people that I love and really care about every day, or call them. Even on social media, like I do stay in touch on social media. I'll send messages, or I'll comment on my friends' things if I can't call them or if I don't feel like texting them. Like if I'm on social media and I see something great that they post, I am intentional about commenting on it and sharing my love. And that is a way of staying in touch. Like you are communicating to them, you're making that person know on social media that you're seeing what they're doing and you're proud of them, or you're excited for them, or you're happy, whatever that is. Like that's how, I view it that way anyways. So like the people that I really, really on a daily basis want to stay in touch with, like my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister-in-law, my husband, obviously, like they all for sure will get a text minimally or a phone call. I'm pretty positive I talk to my mom and dad on the phone every day at some point, and it feels weird if I don't. I'm very, very blessed with that. So love quality time and staying in touch with the tasks, and those were all my expectations. Now, I'm not a parent yet to a physical human child, but like whenever I give this presentation, I always like to give the perspective of a parent, right? Daily tasks for being a parent with your child: love, quality time, and communication. So what does love look like towards your child? For example, words of affirmation, active listening, respect, recognition, nurturing, right? Those are all expectations of love for a parent potentially. Quality time with your kid on a daily basis, right? A lot of us parents, we get so caught up in our own work hustle and grind that we're not investing quality time with our kids. And the reason I made this perspective for this role when I present to people is because I know a lot of people that I present to are parents, and a lot of them struggle to connect with their kids at whatever age they're at. And my students gave me the motivation and inspiration to make this perspective in my presentations, because my kids, the amount of times my students come up to me and say, like, my dad works too much, my mom's always going out on dates, or my mom works too much, or my dad's just always absent, or all they care about is my sports and my grades, like they never ask me how I'm feeling and things like that. So that really inspired me to put something together like this, and was really eye-opening for whenever I do become a parent someday, how I want to be intentional with my own children. But quality time, right? What does that look like with your kids? Is that going for walks? Is it having meals together? Taking them to sports? Taking interest in their day? Like one of my best friends that I work with in my department at school, she has 2 kids, and I was at her house the other day, and her kids just got home from school, and her kids are 6 and 10 years old, little girl and little boy. And I heard her ask her daughter, hey, what was something that made you really happy at school today? And her daughter answered. She was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love that for you. What was something that made you feel brave today? And her daughter was like, I don't really know. And And then my friend kind of like prompted her with more questions to help her daughter think of something that made her feel brave, or if she asked her if anything made her sad today. And I just remember sitting there on the couch thinking like, oh my goodness, that is beautiful. I love that she asked her daughter those questions. And I've heard her ask her son those questions too. And it's just the most beautiful thing. Like anytime we all go out to eat, their parents are really intentional about like asking about their day to both their son and daughter. And it's really admirable and commendable. And I really hope that I'm like that as a parent someday. Communication with your kids. How do you communicate with your kid? What does that look like? How many of you, when was the last time you told your child that you were proud of them? I took a poll with my students one day, and I had 2 kids out of 35 students in that particular class tell me that they had heard that their parents say that they were proud of them in the last month. 2 kids raised their hand. In a month. Whether that is like truly accurate data, or whether kids were paying attention or not to that question, I really felt like they were involved in that topic that we were learning about in health that day, family health. 2 kids out of the 35 said that they had remembered hearing their parents say that they were proud of them over that last month. And it's one thing to hear your parents say that they're proud of you, but like, do they make you feel proud? Right? Like, I've had people say, proud of you, a lot. But like, when my parents tell me that they're proud of me, the feeling that it gives me is second to none, right? Like, you remember how people make you feel, not necessarily what they say. So just interesting. Tell your kids that you're proud, touch base with their life, hold them accountable, and support them with your communication, right? My third title or role was being a fur mama to Stella, and my 3 daily tasks for that were love, quality time, and socialize. So on a daily basis, I expect myself to love her by cuddling her, petting her, right? Grooming her. I make sure she's clean. I do make sure she's clean on a daily basis, and I don't give her a bath every day, but you know, if she gets mud all over her feet, like, I'm wiping them off before they come inside, because I don't want her laying down and taking a nap in filth. I don't want my house being filthy, right? I make sure her nails are at a safe and comfortable length. And nutrition and exercise. I make sure I feed her well. I do research from time to time on healthy food for my black lab adult dog, and I exercise her on a regular basis by taking her on walks. Quality time. What's quality time look like for my dog? Well, I go on walks with her, and I'm intentional about like not being on my phone. I might be listening to a podcast or something while I'm on a walk with her, but I'm still present with my dog, and I'll talk to her, and I'll laugh with her, and I'll joke around with her while we're on walks. Like, I'll poke her butt, or I'll push her, I'll grab her tail, and whatever. I'm just playful with her when we go on walks, so she knows that I am present with her. I play with her toys with her. We teach her new tricks. Not necessarily on a daily basis, but like, we are invested in that quality time with her. And then my third task with her was to socialize, right? And taking her to dog parks. Like I said earlier, like, I'm not able to take her to a dog park regularly, but I do take her over to my brother's house, or my dad takes her because they have dogs and she's super close and they have a great relationship. So if I can't take her to a dog park, I pretty often, at least I try on a weekly basis to get her socialized with dogs. My fourth title was teacher and coach, and those daily tasks were plan, prepare, and love. So how I plan on a daily basis for my jobs is I create my week's daily agenda for class. I'm aware of what important dates are approaching, right? Like, if we have a test coming up for my students, a project coming up, like, I kind of map out the week. All right, I'm aware, and I tap into the daily agenda for the week on a daily basis. And I make sure I do things accordingly to make sure my students are prepared. Number 2, I prepare. I create lesson plans. I make PowerPoints. I collaborate with my department and my assistant coaches, and that's how I prepare. Like, planning and preparing, I think a lot of people think are the same thing, and they're not. They are 2 different things. They can share similar characteristics, but they are in fact 2 different things, or otherwise they wouldn't be 2 different words in a dictionary. I plan things. That's more of a mental thing. I think about the week. I plan out. I map things out. And then preparing is like the act of actually executing my plan. And then how do I show love as a teacher and coach? Well, I check in on my troubled students. I give praise, positive feedback, give high fives. I encourage them. On a daily basis, I model love. Now, some of my students may not feel that way because lately, leading into Christmas break, I've been very frustrated with the madness of the behaviors and the craziness of the kids. But at the end of the day, I always am intentional about showing love at some point, because I want my kids to feel that the most. And sometimes tough love is love for me. Like, I do get angry and I crack down on my kids because I have high expectations of them. So they may not feel that as being love, but I do love them by modeling that tough love and that seriousness, because they need to know that their behavior is not acceptable and we need to fix it because I care about you. And if I didn't care, I wouldn't crack down and I would let them run crazy. Being a student, for me, right, my 3 tasks were time management, studying, and research. So my expectations of time management are that I make a schedule of my weekly assignments. I'm sure to turn my work in by the due dates, and I am intentional about not having distractions around me so I'm focused. So whether that's keeping my phone in a different room, taking off my Apple Watch, going to the library, like all those things help me to manage my time to be a successful student each day. For studying, my expectation is that I review previous work to support my future work, right? So like I'll look back at the previous week's resources to refresh my memory so that I'm prepared for the current week of work that I'm doing. And then number 3, I do research, right? I go to the library regularly. I work with my cohorts in my doctorate. I attend academic residencies. I have friends from all over the country because my PhD is a virtual degree, so I have friends that I speak with on a regular basis who I love, and which is so funny. I haven't even met this one girl and woman in particular. I'm going to give her a shout out. Jeannie, she is one of the most amazing women I've ever not met officially. We met during one of my virtual PhD courses. We were paired up for a project, and so we had to connect over Zoom and stuff like that, and we just became such close friends, and she is God's gift to earth, truly. Like, I don't know where I would be without her on this doctoral journey, but we have become great friends, and now we just talk pretty regularly just about life. We'll call each other on the phone. It's really great. So anyways, those are my expectations of research, studying, and managing my time. And finally, my final goal of taking care of myself or being a self-care taker, my daily tasks were my physical well-being, mental, emotional well-being, and social well-being. So my expectations of caring for myself with my physical well-being are that I'm eating regularly and healthier meals and snacks, right? Like, I'm mindful of my food. Some days I'm hungrier than others, and so it's not like I'm not tracking calories and being a psycho about it for myself, because I've also been down that path before, and that proved to be a very unhealthy relationship with my physical well-being if I counted calories and tracked all that stuff. So I've learned that, and I don't want to do that vigorously anymore. So I just really am intentional about paying attention to what I'm eating. Like, yes, I do have a lot of cheat meals. I don't have this perfectly clean diet, but I would say that my diet is 85% nutritious and healthy, and 15% fun. So, and I think that that's good. That works for me, right? I also work out on a daily basis. I don't intentionally go to a gym every single day. That is the beauty of my career, is that I am in the fitness industry. So my job is to get kids to exercise and play games and get their heart rate up every day. So if I'm exhausted, or if I'm going through a funk of like I'm just not motivated to go to the gym, I am at least intentional on a daily basis of playing with my kids. When I teach my fitness class, at the end of the day, I usually work out with them, or I do something simple to move my body, right? Like, I'm always moving my body with my career, which is a really nice perk. But if I am really motivated with my fitness journey and goals, I usually go to CrossFit 4 to 6 days a week. And then I am very passionate about sleep. I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I go to bed at like 8:30. So people think I'm crazy for that, but I'm still getting 8 hours of sleep. That's just the routine that works best for me. So sleep is very important to me. My mental and emotional health, honestly, like napping when I can. If I get home from work and taking a nap, like for 20, 30 minutes, because I'm not coaching anymore right now. So I have that time to actually leave my teacher job and clock out after contract hours, right? I shut the world down of my work life. and I go home, and I look forward to taking a short nap. Like, that really helps my mental health, because then when I wake up, I'm refreshed and I can move forward in my evening and still be productive and a good wife and a good person to my dog. Listening to podcasts or audiobooks or watching TV, like, that really does enhance my mental and emotional well-being, because I learn a lot of things from the podcasts and audiobooks that I choose. I love self-help books to listen to, and podcasts are like my new favorite thing. Like, when I'm driving or walking my dog, I love listening to topics that I get to choose that I'm curious about learning. And just even watching TV with my husband is good for my mental health, because it's that work break, right? If you remember from the beginning of this episode, I talked about how I was diagnosed clinically as a workaholic. So I'm really trying to be intentional about clocking out after work. That, I don't physically clock out at work with my career, but just figuratively clocking out, and I do other things that bring me peace, which one of those things is this podcast and the inspiration for the title, After Contract Hours. Clocking out at work to check in on the well-being of the world. I love doing this. It's a hobby of mine. It makes me feel good. And then social well-being, I'm just intentional every day to spend time with my husband, for sure. I'm with him every day. Check in with my family and my friends, stuff like that. So my social health is popping. It's awesome. It's at a really healthy place. And I also just want to make a note that, like, if you know me really, really well, and you knew me in my, elementary to middle school to high school to, like, college years, like, you would have defined me as an extrovert. Like, I was the biggest social butterfly. I made friends with every type of clique you could imagine. Like, I just loved everybody, and I didn't like being confined to just one friend group. I really was social and loved learning about new people, hence also why I'm getting my doctorate in psychology. I love people, and just learning new things about the world around me. So I always, always, always was such a social butterfly, going out, doing things. But now in my early 30s, I almost was to a point where I'm like, is something wrong with me? Because I kind of want the opposite now. Like, I really don't want to be around a lot of people. Like, I love just being home with my husband and my dog and my roommate, and just being around my family. And I'll do the occasional social event, like, once every, like, couple months. But I don't really care to go out and do things that involve me getting ready for it. Like, I just am at a phase of my life right now where my social well-being is totally poppin', like it was back in the day, with how it is now, like I said, which is just spending time with my husband, calling my parents, texting in my group chat with my girlfriends, and that's good for me. Like, and I know I have a really good support system with my friends, because they get it too. Like, they don't make me feel bad if I don't want to go out, or if I don't want to go out to dinner or get ready and go to some big event. They never make me feel guilty. In fact, most of them agree and are the same way. And it's a beautiful thing. So my social health, no matter if I'm feeling extroverted or introverted, I feel like I've always been very blessed with that social support, which is incredible. And I want that for everybody. So that was part 3 of the 4-part process, again, which was organizing your, creating expectations and organizing your tasks and stuff. So part 4 of this entire schedule mastery is now putting all of those pieces together on a calendar, so that you can actually see tangibly what your day-to-day life will look like, now plugging in all of these important things in your schedule, right? And if you noticed, as I've walked you through my example, not once have I said binge Netflix, scroll on TikTok, any of the unhealthy screen time things that I personally do, right? It's like, maybe think about unhealthy habits that you fall into, right? Binge watching TV, scrolling on TikTok, playing video games for a way too long of an extensive period of time. None of those negative habits did I mention in any of this. And I've been talking for a very long time in this episode. And so my point in saying that is now when we go to part 4, we're plugging this into a calendar. And I don't have a visual aid to show you right now on this podcast episode. I'll try to put a picture of it on the video so you can pause and look at it and really see what I'm talking about for this part 4. But this part 4 is now creating a visual tool for you to look at. And when you see this, it really shows you who you are and a sense of purpose, and you're rediscovering your life's purpose right now in this season of life that you're currently in. So, like I said, I'm going to try to get this plugged in so you can see it. But basically, it's a calendar, and I have a calendar that I just created on like Google Docs, and it shows like the first column says time of day, and then the rest of the columns are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? So it's like a calendar format, and I've mapped out my entire day with the time of day column. I really mapped out and chunked the times specifically to fit my current schedule. And it does change a lot. It's like after a semester or after a quarter of school, I changed the schedule mastery because my daily routine, like I mentioned earlier, changes. And so I have to adapt. I wish I could have the same routine every day, and how easy life could be to have the same schedule. But like I said, that does get boring, and things change in your life and in your daily schedules. And so you have to adapt to that in order to survive and thrive. So if you're looking at my calendar right now, my time of day starts at like 3:45 because my alarm goes off usually at that time, and then I'll get up at 4. And then so it's like from 3:45 to 4:30 a.m. That's my first chunk of time in my day. And so from on Monday, for example, I have 3 things listed for that time frame: my devotional and prayer, Stella, and then making my bed, packing my lunch, and eating breakfast. Right? So all 3 of those things take place during that 3:45 to 4:30 a.m. chunk. And those are all things I just talked about with my schedule mastery planning, right? Those are all things those are roles that I have. Those are tasks that I just talked about and created. From 4:30 to 5:45 a.m., it's all work stuff, right? Like I kind of give myself some time in my morning to touch base on things that I have to get done for work. So emails, I had to make some announcements virtually for my college courses, stuff like that. From 5:45 to 6:30, I get myself ready for work. So that's self-caretaker, right? That's things that I would do for me: wash my face, go through my skincare routine, pick out my outfit, like shower, whatever that is, make myself feel good, get ready for work. That's a self-caretaker thing. And then 7:15 to 7:30, I'm at work doing my supervision duty. 7:35 to 8:40 a.m., that's my plan period at work. So I am working, but then I also have a self-caretaker thing written down that I'm eating a snack during that period. 8:45 to 10:45, I'm teaching. I'm doing work. From 10:50 to 11:20, I'm eating lunch, and that's a self-caretaker thing. I'm nourishing my body. Also, during my lunch break, I'm working on my social health. I'm checking in on my relationships. I text my husband, my parents, my family, friends, respond to texts. Like I used my lunch break to really take a break. Whereas I used to work through my lunch break, and I would sometimes not even eat and skip lunch a lot of times, which was miserable. And then you get the point. Going on, I don't need to go through my entire schedule. Like, again, I'm going to try to put this image on the video so you can look at it yourself. But the bottom line is you can see I am literally accomplishing everything on my to-do list that actually freaking matters. It actually matters. It actually makes me feel it makes me feel like I'm flourishing in life. I lay my head down at night. I know that I'm taken care of physically, mentally, emotionally, socially. That has to happen, number one, before I can help others. My job is taken care of. What I need to do to make money is taken care of. My dog is taken care of. My spiritual health is taken care of if I do that in the morning. I'm exercising, I'm eating, I'm preparing for the next day. I'm getting my homework done. Like you can see that all of that is mapped out how it needs to be. A lot of people look at that and they think that I'm crazy. Like, how does she do so much? What is she doing? Blah, 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 blah. But the beautiful thing is again, guys, like this works for me. This schedule makes me the best version of myself imaginable if I stick to it. And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I fall off the block with it. And I notice very quickly that when that happens, all of my health starts to kind of go downhill. And then I have to catch myself. And that's my sign to maybe, I need to sit down for 10 minutes and redo my schedule mastery because I'm no longer in that season of life. Something new has happened. For example, I'm no longer teaching college courses, so I have a break from that. So now my schedule needs to change, and I need to reevaluate my schedule mastery and what my days should look like. And it really does. It works for me. Some people, when they look at this, they're like, that is insane. Like, that is so type A. That's not me. And that's okay. You don't have to do it exactly the way that I do it and how my schedule shows you. But if you're type B and you're more laid back and you procrastinate, you really could benefit from something like this. Like, you need more structure in your life, potentially, right? If you're late to work all the time because you're so laid back, or you're missing bills and deadlines, all these things can be really negative for a more laid back person. And you do need structure. Going back to what Ben said in his book earlier, structure leads to flourishing. Form leads to freedom, right? We all need a little bit of structure. Some, like me, need way more of it to flourish than others, but we all need it. So you can create this to look exactly how you want it to, and it's a beautiful thing. So my last thing that I want to say, guys, is whenever we reflect, we kind of tie the beginning to the end here. Like, who am I, right? That's the first question I asked. Like, who are you? How would you introduce yourself? Well, after doing this practice, I can confidently tell you that I'm a child of God. I'm a relationship builder. I'm a fur mama. I'm a teacher, coach. I'm a student. And I'm a self-caretaker. But more than that, and the biggest thing I want you guys to take away from this entire schedule mastery, methodology, and application is that because I took the time to do that, and now I know how to slow down and pay attention to myself and when I'm struggling, I'm happy. Guys, I really am. I'm consistently happy. I am way more happy than I am not, right? Rarely am I stuck in a very sad rut. I feel sad at times, absolutely. I feel angry at times, absolutely. I feel frustrated, overwhelmed at times, absolutely. But I would say that 80% of the time, I am a happy person. And I wasn't that for years and years and years, because I was constantly working 5-6 jobs at a time. And earlier in the beginning of this episode, when I mentioned that, that started when I was like 14 years old, that's because when I was 14 in high school, I had a job at a grocery store. I was a lifeguard in the summer. I was a 3-sport athlete, and I was a full-time student. So I was living that hustle and bustle life from 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, my entire high school career. That's what I did. And when I was in college, I did the same thing. I had a job. I was a full-time athlete. I ran track and cross country. I was weight training. I was a full-time student, a friend, right? Social life. You're juggling all those things. I did that every year in college. And then when I even got my teaching job, right? Like, teacher salaries aren't great. You hear it all over the place, and that is true. So I had like 2 side jobs. I was a full-time teacher. I was in school getting my master's degree. I mean, I was go, 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 go. And I still am. Go, go, go. But the go, go, go today at age 32 looks so differently than what it did the past 16 years of my life. And it is a result of why I'm so happy and I am flourishing. And also, whenever I do struggle, I struggle well, which is the whole purpose of Ben Stuart's book of Rest and War, Rhythms of a Well-Fought Life, how to struggle well, right? So when I find that I'm really, really struggling, it's a note in my brain that I have to go redo my schedule mastery and reassess my season of life right now because something is off and I need to fix it, right? So what does this all look like for you guys? What can you do? What are some quick changes you can make? If nothing else, this episode can bring you self-awareness, that you can pause, you can think like, woof, I get it, I relate, I am really busy, and I'm constantly saying that I'm busy, and people are constantly telling me that I'm too busy. What can I do to make myself feel better? And, how can I take things off my plate? There's so many things that I just have to do. But do you? Right? But do you really have to spin all of those plates on a daily basis? Slow down. Think about your titles and your roles. Who are you? Who do you need to be on a daily basis? And who and what are things that you may want to be, but you can work on every couple of weeks, right? Like, understanding the difference between those two things is so important. Once you identify those titles, organize your tasks. What things do you want to accomplish to fulfill those titles in depth, right? If you can't think of things in depth, then that probably means you don't need to be that role every day. Get it off your plate. Break that spinning plate. You don't need it. And then plug it into your calendar and see your purpose come to life. Guys, it is the most beautiful feeling in the world, right? And like I said earlier, it doesn't mean it's your purpose for the rest of eternity. It's your purpose right now. And that's all you should be focusing on is the present. Yes, we need to think about the future for, planning purposes and, getting yourself prepared, which I totally agree with. But who are you right now? What can you do right now? What is your purpose right now? And you can get to your future purposes later. Focus on that. Do this for you. I encourage you. I challenge you. I am the biggest supporter of you, and I'm in your corner if you are just like me, who struggled, who had mental breakdowns, who needed therapy, who just couldn't stop. Maybe you're so busy because you're trying to void out pain. Maybe you're like me and you don't use drugs, alcohol, porn, anything of those things that Ben talks about to numb the pain that you're going through. But your way of numbing the pain and avoiding hard things is just to be busy. That's really where mine originated. I get it, guys. I get it. I still struggle with it from time to time because I am an addict in this area. I'm addicted to chaos, but I know how to struggle with my chaos well and healthily. And that is what I want for you. That is what Ben Stuart wants for you. That's what his whole book is about. So please check out the description of this podcast episode out. I'll have all the links that you need, and I am here for you. And I'm sorry for this being an extra long episode. It's just so powerful, and I really, really wanted to get this out. I've been wanting to do this episode for a very long time, and I've always wanted to make it shorter and more condensed because that's what people want, are just the tools. But you can fast forward. You can fast forward through long episodes and get to the parts that you need. But sharing my experience with it and my golden nuggets was really important to me. So thank you for sticking with me this long, if you did, and listening to this powerful episode. And if you have any questions about this, or if you have any potential future podcast episodes that you would like done more in depth on a topic similar to this, please let me know. But other than that, guys, I hope you have a beautiful holiday season. I hope that you can slow down and see what's right in front of you. Be grateful for what you have. Love on the ones that are around you and here to support you. And take care of yourself. Thanks, guys. As we wrap up, it's time for our Level Up segment, where I leave you with 3 to 5 powerful takeaways that you can implement right away to master your schedule and reclaim your purpose. Number 1, prioritize with purpose. Take a closer look at your to-do list and identify the tasks that align with your long-term goals and values. Focus on what truly matters to you and let that guide your daily priorities. Number 2, time blocking magic. Experiment with time blocking. Allocate specific blocks of time to different tasks or categories of activities. This technique can create a sense of structure and ensure that you're dedicating time to both work and personal pursuits. Number 3, learn to say no. Guys, it's okay to decline commitments that don't align with your priorities. Saying no is not a sign of weakness. It's a powerful way to protect your time and energy for the things that truly matter. Number 4, reflect and adjust. Regularly reflect on your schedule and adjust as needed. Life is dynamic, and so should your approach to time management. Be flexible, and don't be afraid to tweak your schedule based on what works best for you. And number 5, embrace the journey. Schedule mastery is not about perfection, it's about progress. Embrace the journey, celebrate small victories, and learn from challenges. Remember, it's a consistent effort that leads to lasting change. I would love to hear how you're implementing these tips in your life. Share your experiences, questions, or any aha moments with me on social media, and let's continue this conversation. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and remember, You have the power to design a schedule that aligns with your goals and brings fulfillment to your life. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast, and I look forward to checking in with you next week.